So when it comes to funding a whole life insurance policy, a question we get quite often is, can I fund the policy with a lump sum? Can I write you a check, send it to the insurance company, deposit it all into the life insurance policy on day one, and never have to make another payment? And by the way, I want to be able to access my cash value tax-free, just like what all whole life insurance policies offer, assuming they're not a MEC and a taxable event was not triggered. But can you do that? Can you make a one-time lump sum payment to a whole life insurance policy? The answer is yes, but I say it like that. The answer is yes, because it doesn't make sense. It has to do with how policy works, how long the premium is due, even if I'm not paying it. Really, when someone asks that question, firstly, what I'm very, very big on is showing them exactly what they asked for. So here's exactly what you asked for. I would not recommend it, but you can see exactly why. Here's an alternative that most people go with when they are asking the same question that you just asked. So what we're going to talk about today is exactly that. We had an individual recently reach out. He's interested in a whole life insurance policy, an individual in his mid-60s. He is a real estate investor. He plans on using the policy for property. So I plans to use policy property. I forgot, for property. He specifically wants to maximize the cash value of a whole life insurance policy and then have the ability, or he wants to borrow against that policy to invest in more real estate. He does quite well. He's got 500 units. He invests in multifamily real estate. He knows what he's doing there, and he's got an interest in whole life insurance. So a little bit of information here as to what he wants to do when starting is he wants to fund a policy with a lump sum. And his question was this: can I start with $1 million right out of the gates? And this is the question that comes up all the time. Can I just write a check, in this case for $1 million, and be done with it? Because I'm interested in a whole life insurance policy here for the cash value benefits, being a safe, liquid, tax-free area to position money. A little bit of information on this in case you're new to it. Safe. How is the money safe? The money is not tied to or invested in the stock market at all. When you look at whole life insurance, when you look at the history of the product and how it functions today, it just continues to gradually increase as time passes, regardless if things are going very, very well in the economy and stock market, or if things are going very, very poorly in the economy and stock market. The cash value continues to appreciate over time. The net growth rate, the IRR, will likely fall somewhere between 3 to 5% as time passes. Historically, it's done a little bit better, but that's just setting expectations more conservatively, in my opinion. But it is safe and just continues to appreciate over time. Whenever there's a recession or a pullback in the market, from experience, what I have always noticed is this becomes very, very attractive. There's more interest in whole life insurance because people are looking for safe areas to position their money. Liquid, I can access the cash value anytime. And particularly for cases like this, where someone's interested in accessing the cash value, when we talk about the liquidity, with a whole life insurance policy, I have a loan feature. I can borrow against my cash value, and when I borrow against that cash value, I'll continue to earn dividends and interest on the entire cash value. To illustrate, I have $100,000 in cash value. I elect to borrow $50,000, half of what I have available. I borrow $50,000. There is a cost to borrow, loan interest, that does go to the insurance company. However, they continue to pay me dividends and interest on the full $100,000. Even though I pulled half of it, when I borrowed half of it, doesn't matter, I still get dividends and interest on the full 100. How they do that is A, they do charge interest on the outstanding loan, and then B, they do collateralize my death benefit. So I'll see my death benefit in that example I just mentioned drop by $50,000. So that'll happen, but if I repay it, I see the values restored. Some companies treat loans a little bit differently. You'll see terms like non-direct and direct recognition, which we've got videos on. And then here's the real appealing piece, tax-free. So when we talk about that safety and that net growth rate between 3 to 5%, if that's, call it 4%, pick the one in the middle, and it's also tax-free, and I'm in a high tax bracket, that becomes much more appealing now. Now the tax-free piece, something I like to throw in here a lot, is that it's tax-free if I do everything properly, meaning I don't trigger a taxable event like a MEC. So a couple bullet points there on the cash value. In his particular case, the death benefit was appealing because it's paid income tax-free. If his children, particularly his 2 boys, have to pay any type of inheritance tax, or if there's outstanding debt on the real estate, for example, having this death benefit, income tax-free, can help satisfy or service some of those debts. So that was appealing to him when we discussed the product. So we spent a lot of time on this piece, but this is the reason why, if we're looking for factual points around why people are interested in whole life insurance, specifically for the cash value, those are what I like to refer to as the core benefits with a product. So back to the main theme here, he wanted to fund a policy with a $1 million lump sum. Can I write a check and just be done with it? Well, you can, but does it make sense? My answer is no. If your goal is to maximize the cash value, which is what we encourage everyone to do before starting a policy, meaning know what options are available so you know exactly what maximizes the cash value and what does not. And here's why I say that. If this is your goal, if you said, hey, why I'm interested in this policy is for cash value. The death benefit's great and all, but the cash value is what I'd like. Where buyer's remorse occurs with whole life insurance for individuals that want cash value, almost always has to do with the cash value. Specifically, someone gets a policy and then finds out after the fact that that exact same policy with the exact same company could have been designed or set up in a manner where they had significantly more cash value on a guaranteed and non-guaranteed basis, but it wasn't. Could have been for a variety of reasons, but that's where buyer's remorse occurs. So in a case like this, when I'm looking at funding a policy with a lump sum, we're going to look at 3 options. And I'll let you know up front, the option that is the least appealing to an agent in the business from a compensation perspective is the one that will be the most appealing to the consumer, which is usually how it works when you look at whole life insurance, especially if you're looking at the guarantees. Maximum cash value will 99 or 990 out of 1,000 times will result in maximum cash value for the consumer. Maximum cash value results minimum commission. So we're going to look at the exact same product. We're going to look at a Guardian product funded in this manner. Assumptions we'll look at the same product based on the guarantees, based on the present dividend interest rate, and then also based on an indexed rider. So he did mention indexed universal life insurance, which is not something that our company specializes in. Our company has a laser focus on whole life insurance, particularly products set up for maximum cash value. That's what we focus on. With that said, the indexing strategy was appealing to him. So Guardian does offer an indexed rider that can be attached to a whole life insurance policy. You can elect to never exercise it, then it's the exact same thing as a dividend paying whole life insurance. It is the same product. This is just a rider that you can turn on. So that is what we are going to look at. Let's take a look at the assumptions, shall we? All right. So what we're going to look at here is the guaranteed values. This will reflect the worst case scenario. We've got the 66-year-old male. The health rating here was regular preferred, a $1 million lump sum, and what's the best way to fund the policy. We're going to look at options A, B, and C. We'll begin with option A. And again, all of these assumptions are going to assume the guaranteed rate and the guaranteed values only. So here, we've got the $1 million lump sum. We've got a large death benefit, $10,300,000, kind of an oddball number too. Where we came up with that figure is based on this individual's age. That gives him a MEC limit of guess how much? $1 million. What has a direct relationship to the MEC limit on a life insurance policy? An individual's age and total amount of life insurance. Now the product, the guaranteed rate, an individual's gender, that'll also play a role, but the main 2 factors are age and total death benefit. Main thing you just need to know is, does my policy have the minimum death benefit to give me the MEC limit I want? So what do you notice here? Year 1, he pays in $1 million. Here's the total funding, $1 million. Year 2, it's still $1 million. He pays in 0. But let's look at year 1. He pays in that $1 million. He's got $895,000. So 89.5% cash value in the first year. And this is a non-MEC policy. That's a rich year 1 cash value. What happens in year 2? The value goes down. How about year 3? Goes down again. Plummets when we look at it. And if we look at year 7, what do you see here in the annual funding column? You see a dollar amount, $23,361. What this is reflecting, and we'll see this on the detailed illustration, which is really what we want to look at first. We've got it on Excel for simplicity here. This is telling us is that we need to pay an additional $23,000 and change here. So the policy is calling for more premium. A workaround this is to have this paid through a policy loan, but that's not going to help us much here because what's happening? Our value is plummeting. And then what we did here in year 8 is kill the premium. So what you don't see in this illustration is the premium that's still due years 2 through 7. It's $60,000 and change. You'll see a detailed breakdown in the next video. But the premium is still due. We're not paying it. The policy is paying for itself. But why we're going backwards in value is simply because the expenses are exceeding the growth or the gains in the policy. We're going backwards. We do not want this. So to go back to his question, can I write you a check and be done with it? Specifically, can I put it all into the policy on day 1 and then be able to access the cash value? You can, but after you see it, you're probably not going to want to do it. And here's why. The value goes down. This is based on the guarantees, a worst case scenario, but still not attractive at all. Let's look at breaking it up over 2 payments. So you've got the same thing going on here. Well, I should say the same product, but what's different? Look at your death benefit. It's cut in half, exactly half. The reason why is because we're paying in a total of $500,000 every year, which means we don't need a MEC limit of $1 million. We only need a MEC limit of $500,000. And what has a direct relationship to the death benefit, or I'm sorry, to the MEC limit? Total death benefit. So now, years 1 and 2, I'm covering the premium payment and a lot more. Through year 7, the premium's still due. What's happening here? This is again based on the guarantees. I'm going down, man. After year 7, I executed here what is called a reduced paid up. We killed the premium, and the value begins to recover, but when do I get my $1 million back? Too long. If I have to scroll down, it doesn't make sense to do it, in my opinion. Again, this is based on the guarantees, but still not attractive. 4-pay, which at his age, a 4 to 5-pay is going to make the most sense. $250 per year for 4 years. What do you notice here? So based on the guarantees, the value still goes down. This is why I would look at a 5-pay here, spreading it out over 5 years, $200K per year. What's happening, the longer I can cover that premium, the better, especially as I get older. If I'm younger, it's not as much of a concern. And we've got other videos that go through that, and we're going to cover it in the next video too as we go through the details. But when we just compare the bottom line, I actually see my $1 million come back. If I look at it long term, it's like a no-brainer here as far as which one has more value. But again, this is representing the guaranteed values, a worst case scenario. Good to start with this, because if it doesn't make sense for you based on the guarantees, if you're just not comfortable with it, know that that's okay. It is your money going in, especially if it's $1 million. Like the last thing anyone wants is to start a policy because they only see the best looking scenario, the numbers that look the best. And then after the fact, they see the guarantees, then they get that sick feeling in their stomach saying, wait a minute, how come I was never shown this? Or why was this never explained? Having it explained goes a long way, or at least having it disclosed. It's always disclosed, but awareness is the big thing. Let's continue on. The dividend column, or the dividend illustrations. So here is something that is a bit more realistic. Why I say that is when we track the performance of Guardian policies, we've seen them perform, in some cases, spot on with what was illustrated for several years. Now that will change as the dividend rate changes, but it's based on the present dividend rate. There's your total payment, 1 million in. Year 2 goes up in value a little bit, then begins to come down. After year 7, we drop the death benefit and it begins to recover. So this is based on the present dividend interest rate. Attractive? No, not attractive. More attractive than the guarantees? Yes. Would you want to put your money into this particular plan? I wouldn't. How's this one look? Much better, doesn't it? And again, we've got the same product here. What we're doing is just spreading the payments out. We're able to reduce the death benefit. We're able to reduce the premium. Again, you'll see that in the next video. You're able to improve the overall value. That's the name of the game there. So breaking even between 7 and 8 instead of between 13 and 14. Big difference. Let's look at the same product, but over 4 years. What do you notice there? Now all of a sudden, you're between 4 and 5. That's consistent with a lot of our content when we look at funding policies with a lump sum and what the numbers look like and such. But there's the clear winner there. And then we can do the same thing with the indexed rider assumption, and it's the same story. So again, this just demonstrates funding a policy with a lump sum and what is the most effective means to fund a policy. In our next video, we're going to look at these different scenarios. So we're going to go through the detailed illustrations. We're going to take a look at exactly where the money is going. So if you like the nitty-gritty details or just want to understand why does it work like that if I have the same product and such, because I'll close with this. A question that comes up a lot, particularly in my experience from working with individuals who are in retirement or they're used to depositing large sums of money somewhere, and if they make a larger deposit, that means they're going to earn compound interest on that entire deposit sooner rather than later. And the question is, why doesn't it work like that with a life insurance policy? The answer is this. If I make a one-time deposit, a lump sum payment to a whole life insurance policy, what I have is the deposit. I do have dividends and in the guaranteed interest that is applied to my policy, but then I also have expenses. And if I'm making a one-time deposit, what happens the next year, no matter what, I still have those expenses that are due. And what I'll find in almost every case is in year 2, if I make a one-time lump sum payment, when year 2 rolls around, those expenses are going to exceed the earnings, the dividends and guaranteed rate on the product. That's why in many of those examples, all of the examples where I didn't make a payment in year 2 and year 3 and so on, I started to see my values go down. So here, the expenses are exceeding the earnings on the policy. So if I'm able to fund the policy for 2 years or 4 years, a longer period of time, I'm covering those expenses. I'm putting money into the policy that satisfies the expenses, so the policy does not have to pay for itself. I'm getting it off the runway, and then by the time I stop funding the policy, now I'm already up in the air, and I don't have to worry about the expenses dragging me down, meaning I see my value continue to go up. That hopefully made sense from an illustrative standpoint. What I'll close with is the fact that when it comes to lump sum options, if I'm younger, if I'm not 66, if I was 36, this would look pretty good, option B. The sweet spot would be between a 2 and 3 year funding scenario. So I hope you enjoyed this one. If you did, please let us know. And as always, I hope this helps. Thank you so much. Hey guys, Steve here with IBC Global. Thank you so much for watching the video. If you're interested in a whole life insurance policy and you'd like to work with our company in setting it up, please visit our website, ibcglobalinc.com. We would love to work with you. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments below. And as always, I hope this helps.